So this one you're gonna point to, you're gonna point it to the finger.
If you stop in one place, any place,
Take your picture, Julia.
for the calendar as an introduction. Heather McGill is our timekeeper over here, and she's a teacher, so she's really going to, be very strict about upholding our time. So hopefully we can get out around 9 o'clock, not drag on too long. So thank you to Heather. Thank you to Coach Pro TV, your TV for coming out and helping us. Thank you for publicity and giving candidates publicity as well. I also like to point out that on the student budget draw, there are one funds that are available this year for the region for Remembrance Day, and I think there's 30 anytime I think you don't have to do it necessarily. And the other announcement is the bar will be open after this. So I would like to begin this meeting with the formal investigation council by acknowledging that we are meeting an Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous people from the beginning. As settlers, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet. I didn't say it, but there will be questions till about 8:30. And then at that point, we will ask everyone to speak for 1 or 2 minutes till the end. Okay? And of course, you're welcome to stay afterwards and speak to people as well. 30 seconds. So we will start with James, please. James Zimmerman is the candidate for mayor. And then we would ask the next candidate to stand behind so that it will be faster to proceed. And then we'll start at that end with Mr. Baker. and work our way through it. Each candidate can get lined up because it's a long line to wait for everybody to walk back and forth. Okay, does that work for everyone?
This thing's 30 minutes. 30 seconds.
30 minutes. Start now. My name is James LaRue. I'm a long-term resident of the city of Cornwall. I run a business for over 25 years. I'm very into the community. I have housing for homeless people. I have 40 rooms. That's what I keep running every day, and plus I do a lot of cleaning up and estate cleanups and stuff like that. So 30 seconds is not a long time.
No, you have 5 minutes to
5
speak.
minutes?
Yes, but this is 30 seconds.
This is
left.
30 Of course, I'm new at this game, but I've lived here all my life, and I like Cornwall, and I want to bring some of my knowledge to Cornwall and see if we can make it more efficient and profitable, and see if we can bring down the tax base. You know, I take it there's a $84 million deficit, and the last thing I heard was 54,000. So I really don't know what's the real number, but I'd like to work and try and bring that down and bring some stability to the community. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Bonsoir. C'est go. Je m'appelle Justin Towndale et je présente comme candidat pour la position de maire de la ville de Cornwall. I am Justin Towndale, and I'm running to be the mayor of Cornwall, your mayor. Currently finishing my second term on council, and it has been my pleasure to serve as one of your elected councillors for the past 8 years. I was raised here in Cornwall. In my other job, I'm currently an infantry officer of the SDG Highlanders. I'm also a local business owner, having invested in a restaurant in the Cotton Mills area. Over the last 8 years since returning home, I've sat on a number of boards, and these include the Chamber of Commerce, the River Institute, Habitat for Humanity. I currently sit on the board of Sexual Assault Support Services of SDG in Akwesasne. I love my city. I love Cornwall. I want to see the city, and I think when we work together and we succeed together, everybody wins in the end. I look forward to answering questions that you may have this evening, and my platform is based on 3 main points. So the first one is housing. This is my top priority. There is a housing crisis across this country. It's not unique to Cornwall or Ontario. And quite frankly, we need a homeless shelter in this community, but we can't do it alone. We need partners. And that's something I want to look at. I want to look at other municipalities and not-for-profits and partner together to create a shelter so we can help the most vulnerable in this community. Housing also includes more affordable and social housing. Right now, the city has 2 projects underway, and that's great, but we can't lose our momentum. We have to continue. And we need to look at ways to ensure that we are able to afford this housing. It's not cheap, but it's important and it's valuable. So I believe we need to partner with developers. We need to find partners in the private sector to help us build them. In that same vein, we need to make sure that we give the tools to developers to build more housing, and that includes looking at our permit system. There is an issue here. People are having problems with permits. We need to remove these roadblocks. Now, I'm not saying we give a pass on the building code by any means. That's there for a reason. But I think we can take steps to make it more efficient and make it easier. In the same vein, when we're talking about working with developers, we need to look at dwelling types. When they build neighborhoods, when they build subdivisions, we need to make sure there's a good, healthy mix of dwelling types in those subdivisions. For example, a single-family home may not be suitable for everyone, but the same goes for semi-detached and townhomes. And the final point on housing for me is property standards. This is important as well. We know that in town, there are landlords who do not maintain their properties, and this affects their tenants in a really negative fashion. We need to make sure our enforcement of property standards is top-notch. We crack down on illegal apartments so that our residents have a safe place to live. Doctors are also a priority for myself. Like many residents in town, I currently do not have a family doctor. And while we do have great medical recruitment and medical scholarship programs, I do believe the criteria are outdated. Right now, you have to be a permanent resident of SDG, and you need to have completed your medical degree in Canada or the United States. This is very limiting, and we need to look at other options and factors like doctors who completed their degree outside these 2 countries and who don't reside here permanently to look to attract them. Currently, we generally attract, it's not exclusive, but it's primarily general practitioners. We need to look at specialists as well. Bringing in specialists to Cornwall benefits all of Eastern Ontario, and that benefits us in the end. Financial accountability. Inflation is everywhere right now. We know this. The cost of living has gone up. And there are different factors that are driving this that are definitely outside the control of City Council, but we need to adjust and accommodate in order to make sure our residents have what they need to survive. We need to look at our budget process. We need to make sure it is a thorough budget process. We cannot simply rubber stamp the budget that comes to us every year. We need to make sure that our services are being funded for the best value for our residents, and our tax increases are reasonable. I don't believe in 0% tax increases. I don't think that's attainable, but they need to be reasonable. We need to keep that in mind when we're debating it. Sometimes we forget that when we're talking about the residential tax rate, that affects, when we raise the tax rate, businesses are affected through the commercial tax rate. We also tend to forget that prior to tackling the main budget, we've already passed the water and sewer budget, which impacts the same tax base. There is one tax base in the city. I would also like to take a look at our projects that are on the go when it comes to capital projects. I did this with the municipal works yard. There was an issue there. It turns out some of the soil wasn't good, but for example, that project is 50% over budget now. I got support from council to go to the audit committee to have that project reviewed so we could see what was going on and make sure that it makes sense and the value is there for our citizens. I'd like to thank you for your time tonight, for being here and for watching at home. And again, I look forward to answering questions. Thank you.
Sego, bonsoir, and good evening. My name is Glenn Durrett, and I'm running to be mayor of the city of Cornwall. My history on city council is 14 plus years as a city councilor and 15 months as a Cornwall mayor. And those last 15 months have given me a new perspective on City Hall. My view of running for mayor is we, the four candidates, and there's only 3 here tonight, but we've got 4, are being interviewed by you, the citizens of Cornwall, to be the chair of the board of directors for the corporation of the city of Cornwall. So basically, this is a job interview as far as I'm concerned. So what I believe is, when I was in human resources, what we did is we looked at the qualifications. When people applied for a job, you looked and see if they're qualified to start off with. So in all job interviews, the residents are the ones that are hiring us to be, one of us to be the mayor. And so I think you should be looking at our qualifications, because we're the chair, we're going to be the chair of a corporation of the city of Cornwall. That corporation is a multi-million-dollar corporation, and we have to have the best qualified people in order to do that. So I want to talk about my qualifications. And I worked 40 years at Domtar, many different capacities. I worked as a pipe fitter, worked as a safety coordinator. I was president of the union for 10 years. I was also the HR coordinator. In HR, we taught about teams, and that's what our city council is a team. You need a leader to lead that team, not somebody that's going to create issues. You need someone to get everybody working together in the same vein. I have a history of Cornwall of helping out. My volunteer history for recreation is I was a coach for Kinsman Girls Softball. I was a basketball coach for the United Counties Basketball Association and an executive member. I also coached, when I lived in Cornwall Township, I coached the Adam traveling team. I don't have any boys. I help the kids in there by being the traveling team coach. In the community itself, I've been active in the Community Children's Treatment Center. I was a member and fundraiser, and 2 years in a row, I got the trophy for raising the most money. So I'm active in fundraising for this community. I was on the Employment Education Resource Center, which is ZOBDO now, one of the original board members on that committee. I was on the board of directors as president and campaign chair for 13 years with the United Way. 13 years, and you can only get 6 years, and then you're off the board. But I was 6 for the labor, 6 for staff, and then 1 year as a president. They want to keep me on board because at Domtar we gave about $80,000 to $90,000 a year. It was a good check to hand out at the start. So I was the Team Cornwall captain. I'll just go over some of them. Cornwall Economic Development Committee chair, St. Lawrence River Institute board member and vice chair, Cornwall Sports Hall of Fame committee vice president, Cornwall Curling Club board member, St. Francis de Sales, I'm an usher and a counter, Meals on Wheels volunteer, senior friendly community committee. That committee has been recognized by the province as a very, very active and recognized as a senior friendly community award. My goal here is to go back and to City Hall and be the person that you want to be to represent the community. And I do that with teamwork. I taught teamwork when I was working. You have to work as a team. We have, this city is moving forward in such a positive direction, we don't need disruption. And disruption is what you're going to get if I'm not elected. So I'm looking forward to any kind of questions that come from the floor, and I'm looking forward to talking individually. I've got some brochures at the back that give you a full itemization of all my events. Thank you.
Thank you to the mayoral candidates. I just wanted to point out that Dennis Carr and Corey Riley, the other candidate, were both ill tonight and were not able to attend. Corey Dixon, sorry.
Awesome. Bonjour à tous. Merci d'être ici avec nous aujourd'hui. Merci à Louise, à Heather, tout le monde ici pour organiser cet événement, and for having me here to speak tonight. My name is Bruce Baker. I'm going to be one of your city councilors in the upcoming October 24th election. Advance polls close tomorrow. A bit about me. I completed my degree just this past spring in Queens in politics, philosophy, and economics. And each of those things are going to talk a little bit to my platform. Politics is what can we do, philosophy is what should we do, economics is how can we pay for any of it. So the first point, what can we do? Cornwall can do a lot. We have seen a lot of progress in the last 4 years with this council. A lot of good has come from it, no doubt. We can and we should do more for our housing, for our waterfront, for the businesses that will help Cornwall grow. So what should we do? Housing, in my view, is a basic fundamental human right. And we need to do all that we can to ensure that people have access to homes and shelter. For those, we need to start by getting affordable housing built and built fast. Things like the 9th Street building are great, but we need to do more. Economics, how can we pay for that? Reform our zoning, densify residential districts, make it possible for developers to build higher while still ensuring and protecting our environment. What should we do for the waterfront? We should buy it back so that Cornwall has a say in what Cornwall's waterfront will be. And last but not least, our businesses. We need to roll out the red carpet for businesses that want to come here. Justin alluded to it earlier. There are permit issues, to say the least. We need to work as a city, as an advocacy for these small businesses to get those built faster. I have some stuff at the back. Pick up some brochures, find out more about me. I hope you follow me on Facebook, and thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Bennett. I'm running for re-election this term in this election. I wanted to thank everyone that voted for me in 2018 because you gave me one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in my professional career. And I've thoroughly enjoyed working with my colleagues around the council table and members of the administration as well. Early in this my first term, I was able to bring ideas like the pop-up shops to the council table. You can see those downtown. And I've got great support from my colleagues on the table. The administration and the city staff took the idea and ran with it and made it a huge success. And it's collaboration, as an example of the collaboration I look to do moving forward as well, getting support from my colleagues and working well with our administration to get ideas done. Moving forward though, it's been said already, it's going to be said a lot more, is that housing is without a doubt the number one issue facing us. We have jobs available and people can't move here to take a job because there's absolutely nowhere for them to live. So we do look for more partnerships with the private developers, offer them the grants that we already have in place to entice them to start building more affordable housing. We also need to start looking at the fact that our landfill is less than 10 years away from having to be closed. This is estimated low, I think, at $40 million to close and reopen another one. So we need to start looking at options. Incineration should be on our radar to look at different ways that maybe we can make a landfill, which is a negative right now, a positive, and make it maybe a economic generator instead of a loss that it is now. There are several challenges coming ahead. There are lots of good things happening in this city. You just have to look around and see it. It takes collaboration. I believe I have worked very collaboratively with my colleagues and with the members of the administration. I want to do that again. I ask you for your support again this election, and I would look forward to working another 4 years on your behalf. Thank you.
Alors, bonjour. Je m'appelle Carole Boileau, une Franco-ontarienne et originaire de Cornwall. Most of my life, I was a teacher in math and français langue seconde and tutored in these subjects at all levels for 35 years. I ended up in a wheelchair in December 2011 and since have gotten involved in volunteer work. I am presently on a multitude of committees. In Transition Cornwall Plus, the food group, I do potted gardens. Vibrant Community Project on Poverty under the Social Development Council, the city's Transit Committee, the Accessibility Committee, the Arts Collective for the Arts Center and the Arts Hall of Fame, and most recently, am the Vice Chair for the board at the Saint-Charles-Claude. My concerns deal mostly with security and affordability of living in Cornwall. I want all people in Cornwall able to safely enjoy living here. This includes sidewalks, bicycle paths, roads, lighting, accessibility to shopping, entertainment, etc. We all know housing is a big issue. With the Vibrant Community Project, housing is one of the pillars dealt with. The city needs to partner with the project and with higher levels of government and to help in this area. I am very much for the environment and try to do the best I can. I restarted the recycling at my apartment complex, but the city has to do a better job at informing its citizens about recycling and garbage collection. Je suis prête à me dévouer à la position de conseillère. J'ai le temps, la capacité et le pouvoir, tous nécessaires pour bien représenter la communauté. So please, I ask for your support this election vote. S'il vous plaît, votez Carole Boileau pour conseillère ou councillor. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
All good. Can we hear? We good? Yeah, everybody good? We can hear me okay? Excellent. I thought I would kind of point out, there's a lot of issues, talk about taxes and landfill and stuff like that, and they're all important. But I thought I might take a few minutes to tell you what I bring. I've been a counselor for 16 years. I started in 1991, took a 15-year sabbatical to raise my kids, and came back in the last term. I was a paper maker for 17 years. I've been a certified teacher in the province of Ontario for the last 17 years. I've raised 2 children and adults now. My point of all of this is that I can appreciate, first of all, I have a varied experience, and I don't think, quite frankly, there isn't too much I haven't seen along the way that in terms that will throw me. Having the father of 2 adult kids, I can appreciate what it's like for young people to start off. I can roll with somebody's phone ringing or ringing, and I can just keep on talking. The point is, there isn't really too much I haven't seen and can't roll with and understand. And as I mentioned, double clutch here, with 2 adult kids, I appreciate what it's like right now. The world is not what it was in 1991, and it's probably not going to be the same 10 or 15 years from now as it is today. Things change, and quite frankly, when it starts to get hectic and starts to swirl around, a little bit of experience and savvy is what it takes to get the community through these tough times. I hope you recall that, keep that in mind, and on the 24th of October, please vote for Dean Hollingsworth. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Sego, bonsoir. Thanks to the Cornwall District Labour Council for having us this evening. My name is Caroline Hébert, and I have been honored to serve you as a city councillor for the last 8 years. For the last 4.5 years, I've also been the executive director of a small nonprofit called Social Development Council of Cornwall and Area, which includes SDNG and Akwesasne. We call it SDC for short. Between my work on council and with the SDC, I get to do exactly what I love. And that is being a voice for vulnerable people and building a more vibrant community. The biggest project I've been working on at the SDC is called Vibrant Communities, our safety and wellbeing plan, which Kevin has already mentioned. And may I add, she's the co-chair of our poverty working group. At the core of this plan, it is a poverty reduction strategy for Cornwall, Akwesasne, and SDG. I've spent the last 4 years doing public consultation for this plan. The 5 pillars of priority, as determined by our community, are mental health, health services, poverty, community safety, and community well-being. Working collectively with the Lived Experience Advisory Council that we created and over 400 community members and partners, we are now implementing the 52 strategies in this plan to create a better quality of life for everyone across our region. This is amazing work that I get to do, but it also gives me the opportunity to have my finger on the pulse of the community's greatest needs. This is but one asset I bring to the council table. Mon emploi comme directrice générale au Conseil du développement social me donne l'occasion de connaître les plus grands besoins de notre communauté. J'emporte tout cela avec moi lorsque je suis à la table du Conseil. I look forward to answering your questions and to mentioning some of my priorities in the next term of council in the closing remarks that I believe we have 2 minutes for. We can get there. Okay, I'll make it short, but thank you very much. Look forward to speaking with you later. Miala.
Good evening, everyone. Bonjour, je m'appelle Sarah Good. I'm currently running for a seat on Cornwall City Council, and this is my first time doing so. I am a leader in the nonprofit sector. In my current role, I work in human resources with the Children's Aid Society, and I volunteer as vice chair currently on the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity. I am a mother and a stepmother to 2 young children, and I believe that I will bring a progressive, innovative, and level voice to the discussions taking place around the council table. I'm looking forward to working with my colleagues around the council table to accomplish a number of different platform points. I will be focusing on placemaking and recreation, and that means creating a community that is welcoming, engaging, and accessible for all citizens. This includes enhancing our recreation by making our parks more accessible, by moving forward with creating a dog park, enhancing the projects such as the pop-up shops that were mentioned by our councillor Todd Bennett. There are a number of ways we can move forward with this. Environmental sustainability is a personal passion of mine and something that is an immediate and real issue in our current climate. We need to work at ensuring that all future infrastructure is built to net zero standards, that we're on target with our emission goals. And I believe that we can be working on the plan to create a co-digester at the wastewater treatment plant to process our organics and work on diverting waste from our landfill. Finally, as you've heard over and over again, affordable living in our community is a paramount issue. I believe that we need to work to not only enhance the stock of housing, but maintain the current stock of affordable housing that is being rented in our community and stop the bleed of sales that have been happening over the last several years. I look forward to answering your questions tonight, and I hope that you would take some time to check out my website and my Facebook page. Thank you very much. Sarah Good.
Hi, my name is Ryan Martel. If I wasn't nervous, well, now I'm really nervous because I got to follow Sarah, which is always a challenge. Look, I work in the electrical wholesale industry. I've raised three daughters here. Well, I've lived here my whole life, raised three daughters in our wonderful city. There's a lot of parallels in the role of council as it is for my daily life. You know, I'm accountable to all my clients day to day. We have to make sure we help them. You know, we take in as much information we could. We try and help them, guide them through, make proper decisions, make sure they finish projects on budget, which is kind of the same role here. A lot of people got some really strong ideas of what we should do. Yes, obviously I got some ideas, but it's less about me. It's more about the people. It's more what people want. We had an impromptu meeting last night with some local business owners, and a lot of time we make assumptions what people need, but it was really good hearing, you know, from them the different thoughts rather than just ramming people down people's throat what's actually required. And there's a lot of things that need to be fixed here. I mean, if everybody's happy with the current scenario, I mean, you can vote for career politicians, you can vote for appointed mayors, that's fine. But I mean, I think now is the time for change, and we really should look at, you know, different candidates. I mean, yes, like everybody here, we know their needs. We need housing, we need social housing, we need hundreds of units. But I can't build that tomorrow, nobody can. They can make whatever promise they want, but it can't be done. You know, we need a lot of support from the government. We need to explore looking at every avenue. We can't really leave any stone unturned at this point because it is a crisis. Same thing with our landfill. I mean, we're at, you know, pretty much capacity, and we got, look, all these environmental stewards supposedly, and they got their signs up everywhere, plastic everywhere. I don't got signs up because, well, I do care.
Bonsoir, good evening, Shego. Thank you to Cornwall District Labor Council for putting this event on this evening, and your TV for hosting as well. My name is Dennis Sabry, and I want to put my experience to work for you in representing your interests as part of the Cornwall City Council team. I bring to the council table over 20 years working with members of Parliament in Ottawa, 15 years as a Catholic School Board trustee, a past CEO for a national not-for-profit organization, a licensed paralegal, notary public, commissioner of oaths, national journalist, and a community volunteer. I believe I understand the finer points as to how government works, how policy is formulated and administered, and I have the skills to advocate on behalf of constituents. It's time to move forward with action on the Cornwall waterfront and Harborlands. I propose the development of an amphitheater on the waterfront. This could become the cornerstone of an annual entertainment summer festival that will help draw tourists to Cornwall. We must work with the federal and provincial governments to address new and affordable housing that could include rent-to-own and cooperative housing ventures. We have to explore options for the Cornwall landfill site, including incineration, creating energy from waste. Previous councils have considered it, but it is an evolving industry whose time might be now. Post-secondary education is a competitive business. Far too often, students leave to study elsewhere and find new careers in other communities. I suggest that Cornwall's community college should be independent from its present alignment to allow for greater development, meeting local needs, and marketing that will fuel economic growth in our city. If you build it, they will come. I look forward to questions, and I'm asking on October 24th that you put an X beside the name of Dennis Sabry. Thank you.
Good evening. Bonsoir. Mon nom est Jason Riley, et je suis résident de Cornwall depuis ma naissance. My name is Jason Riley. I'm a lifelong resident of Cornwall. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. Professionally, I've worked for a software brand inside IBM for the last 15 years, where I help manage some of our largest clients. I was raised with a sense of community and giving back. My parents taught me how rewarding volunteering can be. I've been volunteering in our community for over 30 years with various nonprofits and youth sports organizations. For the past 5 years, I've served on the board of directors for the Seaway Valley Soccer Club. In my opinion, one of the largest issues facing our city today is overspending. We need to be more fiscally responsible. The City of Cornwall right now is $52 million in debt. We've raised taxes on average, property taxes on average 3.1% each year for the past 5 years. We need to stop spending money we don't have and passing the burden on to our taxpayers in Cornwall. If I'm elected, I promise I will go through the budget line by line and help identify wasteful spending, all while trying to find new revenue streams for the city of Cornwall. Another key piece to my campaign platform is economic development. We need to do a better job of attracting and retaining our talented individuals who want to come and live and work in the city of Cornwall. We also need to do a better job of attracting new businesses who want to come set up shop here in Cornwall. I look forward to answering your questions this evening. My name is Jason Riley. Thank you.
Good evening. Bonsoir. I am Fred Ngonjo. I am grateful to be a citizen of Canada and Cornwall. I seek to give back to this land we love and to help make our community an even better place. Je cherche à participer à construire notre avenir selon l'exemple de Bernadette Clément qui m'a encouragé à me présenter. Je suis très reconnaissant de son soutien. I seek a place at the table of our municipal government. If elected, I will be the first Black man to serve council. But using words of Martin Luther King, I prefer to be judged on the content of my character rather than on the color of my skin. Let us break down together barriers and let us benefit from new voices who seek to contribute. Good government is serious business, but in the end, it must truly be based on same trust. Love the neighbor. I am a research scientist with the government of Canada, living in Cornwall with my wife and 2 children. I am a member of the Knights of Columbus and other organizations, and I am very involved in organizing amateur sport. I believe a councillor must work wisely with others to get things done. This is my solemn pledge. Thank you.
Good evening, Seiko, bonsoir. My name is Sid Gardner, and as Councillor Hollingsworth mentioned, I'm very aware after 14 years of being a councillor of what the issues are, including housing, affordable housing. So I came here tonight to talk a little bit about unions and my participation. I'm a former member in good standing of AFL-CIO Local 212 and worked as a paper maker. I originated the Injured Workers Resource Center. Injured workers represented in my hearings in Ottawa and Toronto. I support a fair wage for workers. I will support projects including DevCorp and Great Wolf Lodge, which will supply good-paying union jobs, including contractors, including carpenters, electricians, good-paying union jobs. Heavy machinery will be the first place that you go. In terms of what I do on council, I'm the Eastern Ontario Health Unit Chair, and it's been a pretty trying last 2.5 years, believe me. Emergency management is another thing. For 3 years, nothing happened with emergency management. Now it's happening. On the 24th of October. Vote for me. I'm a leader, I'm a team player, and I'll be there for all of you. Thank you.
We're here tonight to talk about labor issues. And the face of labor is changing. When there's more candidates sitting at the front than there are spectators in the audience, we need to realize that the face of labor is changing. My name is Mark McDonald. I'm running for a seat on Cornwall City Council. I want to congratulate all the other candidates running for council. I don't think it's disruptive to want to vote for new people on council. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of young people, there's a lot of people coming with dynamic ideas. I don't think it's disruptive. I would like to say that in terms of the face of labor, we have the PSWs that are facing labor challenges. They're not all unionized, they're not all in, we have the skip the dishes people. Since the pandemic, the health workers are under extreme pressure. The face of labor is changing. We need to embrace it. And the new city council, whoever is lucky enough to get in, needs to embrace it. My name is Mark McDonald, and I encourage you to vote for the candidates of your choice. Thank you.
One second.
It's okay. When you start speaking.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Bonsoir, good evening. My name is Abid Hussain. I raised my children in Carnival. I have been involved in politics and volunteer work. I was volunteer with Catholic Immigrant Services, Ottawa. In May 2019, I was fundraiser and coordinator of Path to Sport for Children Treatment Center in Carnival. For the few last year, I'm donating from my every paycheck to Baldwin House. And I'm also a poet and writer. I have 3 books already published in Urdu language. So my points are to support today affordable housing. There is a McConnell walk-in clinic closed. This is a very important issue for all the Carnival. We need doctors, and we have only 2 or 3 senior doctors who are working at Pitt Street. So we need to address this as an emergency, because the hospital emergency department are overloaded with higher waiting time and less doctors. The situation is dire. There is also shortage of local family doctors. We need to solve this problem. My website is abidhussaincarnival.com, and my Facebook is Abid Hussain. So you can go over there and see my more points, because I think my time is over now. Thank you so much.
Sego, good evening, bonsoir. Merci à Louise et à son équipe de m'avoir invité ce soir pour un autre événement. Ça me fait plaisir d'être ici parmi vous. Mon nom est Patrick Dussault. My name is Patrick Dussault. My pamphlet are in the back, French and English. My platform was designed after receiving feedback and talking to citizens of Cornwall. So this is not the view of just from me. It came from different levels. Who am I? In a different life, 4 years ago, I retired from the OPP after 30 plus years of frontline service. And 2 months later, I went to work in Akwesasne with the Akwesasne Family Wellness Program, which is a domestic violence shelter, where my role there is to prevent human trafficking. I'm talking sex trafficking, abuse of young girls mainly. I'm also involved in the community at many level, board of director for Logement Marie-Duville, so I know about social housing and the crisis we're in. I received the SDNG Volunteer Award in 2017 by our Member of Parliament at the time, Mr. Guy Lauzon. I'm a volunteer director for CAS, board of director for Inspire Community Group, volunteer for the Children Treatment Center for Special Events, just to name a few. So my goals are on financial, public safety, environment, and again, everything is put to the back. So one thing I've heard, I think the city needs to go back to wards, 7 wards, deputy mayor, and a mayor. Let's reduce the size of council from 11 to 9, and a freeze on salary of the council who took themselves a 6.1 raise the last term. Public safety, I will strongly object to any strip club, escort agency, or massage parlor, and I'm talking happy ending massage parlor to come to the city. You're a hub for human trafficking, for sex trafficking. We're talking about labor, that's forced labor. When young girls are forced into prostitution, they should not be, and Cornwall should not be a hub for this. The water meter project, well, I'll be candid because I've heard 3 people supporting it, and everybody else have called me, emailed me, phoned me, are against it. If I'm elected, I pledge to review that and reopen it if financially and legally possible. I have to represent you. Council is not the boss of you. We're here to represent you. The one thing I came up to is the permits and permits and permits. So at the end, I'm done.
So what happens there, Heather? Do you raise the yellow sign at some point? At 30 seconds to go, and the red sign means you're done. Okay. I'm all eyes. Good evening, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde. Segons. And I want to thank the Cornwall District Labor Council for organizing this event. And a special big thanks to Cogeco and to the local seeker. The free press is the lifeblood of democracy, and we are beholden to you greatly. Thanks for being here. You send our words much farther than the confines of this room. Je m'appelle Elaine McDonald. I'm a veteran counselor, and I want to continue working for you and our city as I have been since 2006. 2006 was the lowest point in this city for industry, for our economy, and for morale. I'm sure most of you remember that. But since then, as a team, we've diversified our economy, we've supported renewal projects in our neighborhoods, we've revitalized our downtown, and we've undertaken major new developments. But we can't be complacent. As new challenges arise, we have to meet them. And we're doing that with housing. 9th and McConnell, 77 units coming to be before our eyes. Every time I drive by, I see new additions, new windows. The roof will be on soon. We're doing it with our environmental services. And socially, we're working really hard with upper levels of government to ensure that no one is left behind. That people who are struggling here and those who come here as immigrants and refugees will get the help they need to make our city their home and enrich our community. And above all these things, we've started to rebuild our relationship with our neighbors in Akwesasne, guided by the Truth and Reconciliation Report. This goes beyond a term of council, well into the future. We're on course to achieve it, and I'm committed to it. And red time, okay. No, Talk to not you more yet. later. I invite your questions.
Bonsoir, Sego, je m'appelle Claude McIntosh, and I'm running for re-election. Before I begin, my thoughts and prayers go to former City Councilor Dave Murphy, who did a bigger point than me. Sometimes when you look ahead, you have to look back to see the vision. And, you know, when DevCorp announced that they were taking a $1 billion project in Ottawa, parking it in Cornwall, that was a huge plus for the city. One of the biggest development announcements that I can remember in the city's history. Great Wolf Lodge, previous to that, announced that they were going to establish a water park resort in Cornwall. That just didn't happen. They looked at Vermont, Upper New York State, Quebec, and went to Eastern Ontario, and they picked Cornwall. It tells you something. People are looking at Cornwall. Our industrial park is filled. The last piece of land we sold, we had 2 bidders. We selected who was going to get it. Park is full. Waterfront land purchases, we're very close to buying the land we needed, and I think we're going to get it for $1. Portlands, I'm on the Portland committee with 3 other councillors and 4 councillors from Akwesasne. There are big things happening there. If you've been down there lately, you'll see that a lot of things have happened and it's exciting. Affordable housing, as Elaine alluded to, we have 2 developments on the go, one on 9th and one on Pitt Street North, and that'll fulfill some of the problems we had. We also filled that big cavity at the corner of Pitt and 2nd by working out a tax deal with the developer, and we went ahead, and by spring, we're gonna have people living there. I know what it's like to raise a family, pay a mortgage, put the kids through school. I know what it's like to pay taxes. I don't like paying taxes, none of us do, but it's a fact of life. And I think this council, the last 4 years, has done a great job of keeping ourselves within reason. Looking forward to voting, having your vote. Get out and vote. Hope you're voting for me, but last 2 elections, the turnout's been about 30-something%. That's outrageous. It should be more. Anyway, thank you for coming.
Hello, my name is Stephen Robinson, and I would first like to thank the Cornwall Labour Council for hosting us this evening. At first, I had a very different speech written for this evening. It was one filled with talking about myself and some nice, truthful statements about the great work the Labour Council and its members do. All those truthful compliments are still true, but I'd like to focus my energy on one more pressing concern. We have several people within the city looking to invest in Cornwall, looking to make Cornwall grow for the first time in decades. The problem is the administration and bureaucracy lack the ability to support those who would spearhead these efforts. Permits sit unfilled for months. The requests made by the city of these investors changes by the day and often lack any real bearing in either building code or law. There's no consistency from one job site to the next or from one inspector to the next. Communication from those who represent the city's interest is sorely lacking and sometimes unprofessional in nature. We need to be a city that people want to move to and people want to invest in. We must get out of our own way. We have a great labor force here in Cornwall begging for work and begging for growth. We have tradesmen and other skilled laborers desperate for work. Far too often, Cornwall suffers from brain drain. We let our best and brightest move elsewhere because the jobs they need just aren't here. We as a council and as a city must do everything we can to grow our city. More homes, more businesses, more investors, more investments all equal the same thing. More jobs, more successful citizens, and a happier, more prosperous city. All this is to say, this is why I support minimum standards within the building permit process. If you pull a permit for electrical work as an example, your expected actions should be spelled out clearly. The city's responsibilities should also be equally made clear. Business owners, investors, and laborers have far too many things to worry about that they shouldn't have to worry about the city upholding its end of the agreement. We as a city need to do better to support the labor movement today so that the labor movement can support us tomorrow. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gerald Edward Sampson. I previously served on City Council in 2012 to 2014. I want to thank the district board for inviting us here. Louise Lonto in charge. Sego et mes amis, Canadien Français, bonjour. Je sais la bienvenue. My experience as a property appraiser saved the city $800,000. The first day I was on city council. They had a property listed at $400,000, and I had appraised it as a city and provincial appraiser at over $1 million. I was a member of the SCEG Roman Catholic School Board for 21 years, which I served as chairman of finance, and I had controlled a budget of $120 million. I believe that this experience will help control budget deliberations. The councillors have to decide the budget, not administration. We have to look at low-income housing and senior housing. I believe in free busing for seniors and special needs. I also believe that downtown Cornwall should not have parking meters to encourage the businesses. People on Montreal Road and Pitt Street need no parking meter. I ask you to support me on October 24th. And we have to take care of our waterfront. We have to take care of, get rid of the water meters. And also, I'm against the water meter. City Halls to become more accessible to all citizens. On October 24th, please vote for a man of experience, Shirley Sampson, and I'll listen to your concerns. Thank you.
Good evening, bonsoir. You may ask, why am I seeking office at the municipal table? I've been away from the table for some time. I'm there because I believe I have the determination, the grit, the experience necessary to undertake the job at hand. I humbly and really believe in municipal government. It is that level of government that is the closest to the ratepayers. But unfortunately, it is often forgotten in the electoral process because too few people participate in that process. Your elected representatives make the key decisions on how you are governed and how we conduct elections. There are very limited resources in this election. There are only 4 permanent polling stations. I think that's wrong. We need to increase participation, not suppress that participation. It is not simply a budget exercise. It is an exercise in democracy. And democracy is important when we look what's happening around the world. I humbly believe that I can make a difference and have made a difference in the deliberations of past councils, and I can make a difference in future councils. When the Harris government downloaded number of services, social housing, social services, land ambulance was going to the upper tier of government, which we did not belong to. I fought that. I brought it to council. We convinced the province that we were the better delivery agent, and we won. When we sold Cornwall Electric, I was concerned that we would squander the resources, the funds that were derived from that sale. I brought to council how we set up the progress fund. Democracy is important. Vote in this election. Encourage your friends to vote. Vote for me, vote for anyone at this table, but vote. Democracy is important.
Thank you. We've got a good view of our candidates now. If you'd like to ask any questions, please line up at the mic.
So, yeah, this is a bigger debate than just yes or no answer. We take it away and we get a compromise bylaw in place, and we try to keep those fires to properties that are large enough to host them without affecting the neighbors. So it also became a complaint basis. So there's a property still.
To the candidates, could you just answer yes or no?
Yes, it's not a yes or no question. We're trying to find a compromise. I may not be perfect, but there's always an opportunity to look at it.
I'm very new to council. I've been one person on council, and I think I have to do my research. Once I've done the research, like chemical
I don't support a complete ban. I also do not support a complete ban.
I don't support clean ban.
Thank you for the question. I don't support a complete ban either.
Thank you for the question. I don't support a complete ban. I think we can control everything with the current legislation we have in there. It was difficult to get through, but we've got through. I think we can control it through the permit system.
Thank you for the question. My approach will be always based on science's result before answering.
So what's the question? Can't hear over here.
Do you support a complete ban on open air burns?
Yes.
That was a yes, we said.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't support complete ban.
I don't support a complete ban because people have wood stove and to impose, and you, again, government going in and telling them what to do and how to run their household, that's gonna come to an end at one point. But a better enforcement with bylaw to keep it in mind with the bylaw in place already.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm against this when it was started.
Thank you.
I can't support a total ban. I would encourage those with older and efficient systems to perhaps upgrade, but I don't see the effectiveness of a total ban.
Thank you.
I'm not for a total ban. I think improvements can be made. We could go in and check when we have a complaint and act on it and bring it up to standard. If it's not up to standard, a lot of poor people that have to eat with wood. I support people in their own environments and their own home, and I'm not going to tell them what to do, but I'll make sure that if you're living next door, that it's safe for you.
Yes or no?
I don't support a complete ban.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And I hope that people.
Next question, please.
Hi. One of my concerns with Cornwall is a lot of poor people in this community are ignored. We have issues with housing. I know there's a lot of great lip service to housing. Even the press will constantly tout conservative candidates from all levels of government who say, oh, I support this, I support this. But if you actually look at the policies of the legislation, it does not favor the poor, it does not favor affordable housing. So I would like to know for everyone what can be done solidly to help people who are in need. And when units are built, ensure that that housing is actually affordable and at a reasonable rent. But also the price gouging at grocery stores, surely something can be done municipally to the taxes to compel, let's say, laws, which have insane prices for example.
Okay, you have your one question?
Yeah, so basically, to make life more affordable in Cornwall, what can be done?
What do you suggest will be done to make life more affordable in Cornwall?
So for example, rent.
And who would you address that question?
Everyone.
Okay, so let's ask people to be pretty quick so that we can get through all of our questions.
Yeah, I can't touch on every point, but housing, we can reform our zoning and we'll also build more of it. And embedded in that, we can put a certain criteria of X% of our houses need to be affordable, and we can define affordability that way. We can do it that way. Thank you.
Your affordable housing, we need to continue to work with our private developers in partnership, offering them our grants in place already to make affordable housing builds easier. And our administration is constantly going after the other levels of government, looking for their share of funding to continue to build these things. Examples of 9th Street and 5th Street. There's work being done, it just has to be continued, and we have to support it.
I've been working 5 years with Kenny Lynn on the project for veteran communities in poverty, and I think one of them is housing, and it deals with, there's a lot of organizations combined in there. We're discussing, we're in the plans, we're working on it. So it's something that's coming up in the future, so you are doing some changes.
I don't think we can talk about this in about 5 seconds, but I'll see if I can touch on one thing I think the city can do, that we can actually actively do. I'd like to see us augment our public transportation system, Sunday service in particular, but more importantly, I'd like to see us run our buses on a more frequent schedule and get into far-reaching areas. I think we need to pursue going to Long Sioux, as well as St. Andrews and possibly even Glen Walter, because in doing that, if we can mitigate the cost of transportation for people who don't have high incomes, we potentially give them more money to loan towards rent and groceries and stuff like that. And that's something the municipality can actually actively do. I don't need a senior level government to help us. I don't need to try to convince builders to build. It is a hands-on, direct influence. We have 100% control over public transport. So I think that's certainly something we need to pursue. And I kind of can't say I champion it, but definitely ideology.
Ditto on the bus service, providing more accessibility for individuals to find work, get to work. There's plenty of jobs in our community. We just need to get people to those jobs. I think encouraging other local employers as well as the city to adopt a living wage policy. The city has a living wage calculated, city in the region, and we should be encouraging employers to adopt that living wage so folks can afford eating at a restaurant once a month and maybe a Netflix membership, because affordability isn't just making sure that you can eat craft dinner once a day. It means actually having enough money to live with your family and enjoy the beautiful community that we have. I think social services, what people don't understand is that the city may deliver social services for the city and for the counties, but it has nothing to do with how it is delivered. The provincial government dictates and funds the entire OESP, carry work, social service, housing, child care, and what needs to happen is full reform because folks are not making enough to live and eat on a daily basis. And so that is something that we can do in an advocacy capacity. And I think that the city has a role to play in social determinants of health overall for all of our residents, not just the taxpayers. There are plenty of people in our community that don't pay taxes, but they use the services that we provide. And I'll talk more about this. I have no time, but I'm going to pass it along.
Okay, all of what she said. Seriously, improving transit, obviously, I think one thing that we need to do, when you mentioned affordability and how we measure that. If we're looking at affordability as 20% below market value, even that is not affordable for many people. But we do need to set some kind of standard for what we're looking at in terms of affordable housing. I believe that we can create incentives, such as in Leeds Grenville, they have a forgivable loan program for small landlords to build secondary units onto their homes, format permits to allow for tiny homes. We need to increase the stock of housing because right now there are not enough places for people to live. And we need to make sure that if we're working with developers to increase that housing stock, that we're having agreements that allow for a certain minimum level of affordable units within those developments. I think that's really, really crucial. What else do I have here? Obviously, transit, walkability, and bikeability is huge because whenever we're going to cut down on the cost of our transportation, we're giving people more money in their pockets to spend. And I think we can really work with.
Thank you, Sarah. Maybe we can move the mic along. I know you have lots to say.
I do. Maybe we should be kind on these.
Yeah.
So that others don't get more.
Let's try to do like 30 seconds, Heather.
Okay. Depending on whether you're talking about the transportation, obviously the busing system should be reformed. I know it's an evil buzzword because 27 years ago we did a dial bus system, but the technology is there. It's obviously not the way it was, but that we should definitely go down that road because there's an answer. And same thing, labor is a political waste. I mean, we shouldn't be taking that to the water. We obviously can't not just say you're not going to set up shop here unless you're going to pay X amount of dollars because there is a minimum wage in place. But yeah, we should really be pushing for that. We don't need more craft jobs. We don't need more jobs that are going to come up. I mean, if two people are working, there's still thousands of people access to it. Yeah, that's not acceptable.
I'm going to go back to the housing aspect because there's a few points that I feel I want to elaborate on. One is with, because I made mention of it, is rent to own. The federal government is revamping the rules with regards to rent to own. They've set aside a $2 billion envelope to try to work with municipalities and communities and partnerships so that more people can enter into these type of arrangements. At the end of the day, they own their house. At the same time, cooperative housing. This is another envelope through the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It's not utilized. They're telling people, come to us, put together your partnerships. We have assistance that we can provide to you. So I think that can help to address. But also, the big point about it all is you've got to maintain lobby efforts with the federal and the provincial governments, because if you don't agree, you're not going to get it.
So first of all, thank you for the question. I'm going to echo the sentiments from my colleagues over here about the bus. I think we should have Sunday bus service. We should expand our city bus service. I'm going to touch on a little bit of the affordable housing piece as well. I think we can do a better job of streamlining and making our permit process easier, more efficient, so that developers can actually come to the city and develop affordable housing. I think we can also work with our provincial and federal government, members of parliament, to help us build more affordable housing in the city.
For your affordable housing and all that stuff, I work with a lot of crisis workers in the city. Every single crisis worker's got me on speed dial. And they're kind of frustrated with the current position of what's going on, where there's no housing or anything like that. And like I said, we should have a homeless shelter with doctor, nurses, and crisis workers in the same house and work together as a team. I've been doing this for 8 years, and there is a problem. And I work with all kinds of individuals. Some people call me a godsend. Some people call me, that's what I do. I do this on a daily basis.
Time.
Thank you for the question. I think the answers are pretty common here, and I would like to chime in and agree with them as well. Sunday service, it's in my platform, and I think we do need to consider expanding it beyond the city borders as well. Going to housing, I touched on it a little bit earlier. I think working with developers to make sure we're building the right types of affordable housing and dwelling types. I think, because as I mentioned earlier, a single-family home isn't necessarily the best fit for everyone. So we need to look at different dwelling types being built across the city so that people have options when they're looking for a place to live as well. And partnering with not-for-profits in that sector as well could be super helpful for that. It's not we have 30 seconds. It's a larger discussion.
I'm not sure exactly what the question was. So I've heard about busing. I've heard
what can we do to make the community more affordable?
Well, when Domtar closed, we lost $8 million in taxable income assessment. We had to make up that in different ways, and most of it came out of the residents' pockets. Since that time, through economic development, we filmed our our industrial park. It's full right now. We're getting twice as much money per acre for that land. That is new assessment. That is going to take the burden off the taxpayers and reduce their tax involvement. That's how you get affordability in your community, by building your city up. That is the most important factor of all. Now, we talked about time. Sorry, but just want to say we have a task force for affordable housing. It was important to go through. We got more recommendations that you can believe to get housing, affordable housing in our community. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much for this question. I think as a community, we should never forget those who are struggling. I think we should keep them every time in any decision that we take. That is going to have real impact in their lives, and that is something that we should keep in mind as a community, as a council. Thank you very much.
So, is it on? Yeah. So as far as the buses are concerned on Sunday, right now we're having a heck of a time trying drivers. The school buses can't find drivers all over the place. Now is not the time to go for Sunday busing. In terms of development charges, in this city right now, our development charges brought us about $1.2 million last year. That's the way we're going to be able to reduce the taxes, is by bringing in more business and charging development, which we didn't do for years. And this council, just before this council, it was finally brought to the table. Development charges are there.
Time.
Thank you. Vote for me on the 24th.
Thank you very much for the question. And if I understand it correctly, it's what concrete steps can the city take? Well, some of the candidates touched on it, Justin and Sarah, and I think Bruce did. They can offer incentives, and you would have, in other words, if a developer or a builder is going to build, they have to build into it social housing, like an element for social housing. And I think that that's the city's responsibility, and it would be very easy for the city to do, and it's a concrete step that they can take. Thank you.
I support affordable housing, but there are a few points maybe a lot of people don't know. There are 700 applications sitting there for in the line for affordable housing, and our mayor is sitting there. He knows that we don't have enough land to build affordable housing in Carnival. In that sense, we have to extend our bounds to whatever the possibility is. And I also support we don't have enough PSW, and I support that if we have more PSW, I support for seniors they can stay at their home longer.
Time.
Okay, so longer if we have more portable, we have PSWs, and daily basis they can have them. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So the biggest thing is, when you have a debt or a deficit, if you spend more than you take in, you're starting to pay interest on that debt. And for that interest that you're paying, you're getting this, nothing. So you have to live within your means. So if the city can go back and spend what comes in and start to make a surplus and pay that debt and have a surplus, then you can reduce the taxes and take the burden off everybody, not just target group, certain people. If your taxes go down, you have more money in your pockets. If your landlord taxes go down, the rent can stay the same or go down. So that needs to be addressed, and that's the fiscal house
Time.
is the most important.
Thank you. To make life more affordable, you have to pay people more. 2 years ago, when there was a grocery store on strike, I walked with the workers in the cold repeatedly, as did some others in this room. Last year, during the healthcare campaign, I wrote a letter to the editor on behalf of the nurses who were fighting Bill 124, which has held public servants to 1% increase since 2019. You have to support a living wage. You've got to fight for it. It's fair.
There's no magic bullet to the housing crisis. It's very across the country. But we do things. We have done a couple of things. We've offered incentives for the builder at the corner of Pitt and Second that filled up cavity. We've got incentives for the old Cornwallis property if somebody wants to go there. And I understand we're now very close to having the empty lot beside La Maison, same type of deal. We give tax incentive, they build, and we create, I think, something. If they all went through, we'd have about 250 more units. That's a good idea. You know, when it comes to social issues, Martin Luther King said, if you want a man to pull up his bootstraps, give him a pair of boots.
Thank you for the question. Affordability for us really begins and ends with the tax burden we put on every citizen. We have a bad habit lately of starting at 5% and being happy when we hit 3% for a tax increase. We need to start at 0 and see what really needs to be spent. We can't ask landlords to pay, or to charge rather, small rents and us demand a high tax bill. I have a very affordable house with a $3,000 tax and water bill. I can't imagine what some of these other citizens pay. Affordability begins and ends with what we tell people they need to pay us to run the city.
Thank you for the question. I believe that when a school becomes vacant or a public building becomes vacant, give that land to develop low-income housing and senior housing. That's one way we can do it. And by mainstreaming, the average population in Cornwall is getting older and older. Let's help them stay in their homes. Let's support them. And you can do that by keeping the taxes low. There's other ways of getting tax revenue by bringing in new stores like they do in Brockville, diversified stores. Help the people out, no parking meters, get rid of them, and don't throw water meters into the equation. Young people can't afford to buy a home now. You don't need to be paying water meters on top. Thank you.
You need to tap into any programs that are available. I was successful some time ago in creating a not-for-profit housing corporation. We have housing issues, we have property standards issues, we have absentee landlords who pour nothing into their properties, and those residents live in substandard housing. We have to enforce those bylaws. We have to create incentives that will assist contractors in building or developers in building. There's lots to do. I have a daughter who moved from Ottawa to Cornwall. She's living in my basement right now because she cannot afford an apartment in town.
Could I ask you to direct your question to one person or two people, please, so that we can get to all of the questions?
I didn't intend to do that. My question is going to be to the mayoral candidates, okay, that we have here this evening. I'm a PSW working in the community, which is going home to home, also to senior buildings. The last senior building along with Justice now have parking meters. That means in order for us to service the seniors in those buildings, to help the city keep them in their own homes and not elsewhere, now we have to pay to park. So what I'm asking is, I know it's not expensive or it's not going to cost much for the city to do, but what can you implement for us as PSWs? You know, in order for we don't have to pay for parking.
I think the city should issue passes for all the PSWs to have parking anywhere they want, so they can do their job and take care of our seniors. That I agree with.
Thank you for the question. You bring up a very good point, a very strong point. I know that building is part of the housing portfolio by the city of Cornwall. I would say let's have reserved spots for PSWs on site so they can go there and do what they need to do and support the residents so they can stay there. We should look at that at all our housing, what we own in our portfolio.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I am currently working through the permits department to have spaces there for the PSWs and other caregivers to go in and have no cost for parking. There's a number of spaces, what they're doing, the inventory from that building and other buildings in our community where PSWs have to go in. So that's currently being worked on by our permits department.
Right, but there's not just the ones out of Justice either. There's the 3 different buildings out of Justice.
As I say, they're doing a complete inventory. So that should be very soon that that'll be complete.
My name is Nicole Scott. I direct this call to Acting Mayor Lady Brad. On July 7th of 2018, no taxpayer paid for renovations or any investment. Now the question is, donations were going to be brought up for the renovations. What happened? Now the taxpayers are going to be looking at, excuse me, they're going to be looking at paying for that art gallery when we already had the Hutfield Theater showing the pictures of all the artists and.
Okay, we'll let Mr. Grant answer that question.
I don't even know what the question is.
The question is, Mr. Grant said, July the 7th of 2018, that taxpayers would not be responsible to pay for the art gallery. It would only come from donations. Yet today, and all the other things behind it, we say, oh, well, we're going to need X number of dollars for renovations. Who's going to pay for it? Taxpayers? Mr. Grant, you have to look at.
First of all, I had nothing.
Give your word.
Okay, let's let Mr. Grant answer.
First of all, I had nothing to do with the art center. That was committee that was put in from council and led by Elaine McDonald. There's no way I would have said that because I had nothing to do with it.
Well, I must interject this one, because you were on the Seaweed News where they took a picture, and you did say, on July the 7th, 2018, it would not be the taxpayers that are going to be responsible for the art gallery.
Mr. Grant has answered the question, and I need to point out that Ms. Stachek is the campaign manager for James Wood.
$1 million has been raised, by the way, by the community. That's good stuff. Thank you.
Good evening, I'll be brief. My question is for the mayoralty candidates. My name is Ryan, and in full disclosure, I'm a candidate for Canada District School Board Trustee. My question is regarding local education. In 2017, money was set aside for the new high school, the merger of the two existing high schools. For 5 years, the project has remained stagnant, no progress. We talked about progress tonight on other projects. On the presumption this project would still be a go, and that's a big if, what can you as mayor on behalf of the city of Cornwall do to start pushing this ball down the field and start getting some movement and some life back into this spot?
Well, I look at all the councilmen that when the council's in, if I become mayor, we would work together as a team to eliminate all that red tape and clean up whatever the problems are at hand right now. I really don't have anything in front of me about that, so we'd have to work together and solve that problem.
Thank you for the question. I think, from our perspective, what we can do is we need to push the government on it, the provincial government, because it's their responsibility. So what we can do is talk to our MPP, talk to the Minister of Education, say, we need to get this going, it'll benefit the residents of Cornwall, make a point that we need this school, and we need to get it going. Location has to be determined, building needs to start, and that's what I think we can do from our perspective.
This may take more than a minute, but early in this year, 2022, I initiated a meeting between the school board and the city to talk about looking where we could put the super school. The super school, we looked at the CIL site. We looked at that site because we could partner with them and reduce costs to the municipality by having a common gym, common football fields, common exercise rooms, gymnasium, etc. All we could partner with them. The school board, since that time, we haven't heard back from them, but we talked about getting the government involved because we have to clean up the site. It's a very expensive project, but there's a brownfield site that is right in the middle of our city that should be cleaned up, and partnering with the school board makes perfect sense so that we're not duplicating costs because there's only one taxpayer and that's us. So if we can get services, they could use the Benson Center and we can use their facility. It's good for the taxpayer and it's good for our residents.
My name is Igor Roy. I have a lot of respect for all the people standing up here, but to be honest with you, I don't really care who gets in, as long as it's the right person. I'm seeing too many things, and there's too much to talk about. Permits, number one, is the worst in Cornwall. We go to Toronto, they just laugh at us. We call that information. We are the worst, one of the worst things in the whole province. Like what? We have people that say, okay, you go for your permit, and then you ask, you need information, you have everything done, so on, and should you get this out? But nobody's there to help out to fill in the application. Some people can't go on the computer, some people are older, some don't know how it's done. And I'm sitting and I'm watching how some elderly people go through it, and this is not right. We got people in management, we got people who use the city. The other thing we could use to, we should have people here that once you get the committee on, get people that, I'm not smart, I'm not wise, but there's a lot of people that are wise and smart in this city that can get a something who's going, they'll discuss certain things, how can we improve? Like you do, just drive around town.
So what was your question, sir?
My question is, it's mostly the permits for now, because if there's no construction, you got nothing.
So it's more of a comment.
It's everything in the problem. You got no construction, you got nothing. So how can you work with people, not only us, the contractors, but everybody else in there? It's ludicrous.
Is that a question for the mayors?
But
Mayoral
You
candidate?
got to start at the top, work your way down, that's the way I look at it.
Let's start over here with this.
How are you tonight?
Good.
We play hockey against one another, so I asked him how he is, he chased me around the ice. The permits department is a tough area. And I know that, I talk to people in the counties, the same thing, I talked to one today, actually. The same problem exists everywhere, and if they say it doesn't, they're talking through their hat. There is a problem, if there's a problem, we have to change in the province. If the province dictates to us, thou shalt do this. And we have to do it, because if they don't, then we're liable. So what do? Do you ignore the law? I don't think so.
We're sending some people with no experience come in, they've got the education, they've got it, never worked on construction. We could probably know that happened the right way, but yet they're telling us how to do our work, and they don't work with you. And there's a way of speaking to someone, say, I don't like this, you can't do this, fair enough, but say it properly, say, you shouldn't do this because of that. There are ways of explaining to people how it's done, not just saying, well, come back and jot all your documents, and that hurts me. That's it for me. I just want the mayor, I want to start the talk, whoever's going to be the mayor, make committees, we got people, even in the city, get people involved to get ideas, a box, like this, leave up the city.
Well, thank you for your question, and there is a problem, I'm not talking through my hat. I attended a meeting yesterday with a lot of business owners from downtown, and they are not happy. There are problems with permits, and it's not about changing the building code or violating provincial law. You're right, there are things we can do to make it easier. I talked about it a little bit there, and it sounds like potentially we need better training, and we need to ensure potentially helping people through the permit process, having mentors there to help them. I talked about creating potentially a task force made up of counselors where if people are having issues with permits, not limited to businesses, but also residents, they can come approach us for help. We can talk with administration, sit together and work it out so we can get things moving. This is a problem, it needs to be addressed. And I think it's not just a simple solution, it's not a singular solution, but I think there's a set of solutions we can put into place. And I promise to look into it if I'm elected.
I feel your frustration. I'm a commercial, I do contracting and stuff like that, and I got a lot of customers, and when we go for permits and stuff like that, it's, if you go through, like, when I did a water and sewer job inside and out, it used to be one permit, now it's 2 permits. And then when they sent an inspector, he was a building inspector, he wasn't even a plumbing inspector. So I feel for you, and I want change too. I want a lot of things to go smoother, and yeah, we should have somebody there to help people do the permits. Because I know a lot of people are not computer savvy, and, get the permit done right, and instead of somebody looking at you sideways when you're asking them for help, they should be helping you. I agree.
You talk about doctors, 5 years ago, 4 doctors in this town here were an hour from leaving because we had permit problems and issues and it was stupidity, but it got resolved. We have this doctor at different levels.
Yes, I feel for you.
Finally got resolved, and I do workers, a lot of these doctors, not only here, but it's Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa, but Cornwall is my worst place to work.
I understand what you're saying, but I was at a debate in South Lake area last week, and it was exactly the same comments.
This is our area.
Yes, I agree.
But it's a different buildings department. Anyway, go ahead.
Hi, I'd like to direct my question to the incumbent councillors. How do you plan on improving labor relations with unions, knowing that we have multiple unions without contract and an unprecedented amount of grievances?
So, no solution, I've been on both sides. I've been with teachers and been negotiating on that side, and I've been in business the other way. There needs to be a level of respect. Clearly, negotiating contracts that expire for 2-3 years isn't ideal. To me, it just needs to be, was suggested to me by the meeting I had the other day with the union rep that said that it might be a good time to bring in a mediator. Has nothing to do with either side, just work out the issues we have between the 2 sides, so that we go into negotiation don't have a problem with doing something like that, I think it's something we could look at. But we definitely need to do something to, so when we win these negotiations, there's trust between the two sides, that should just move on as well.
Thank you. Like my colleague, I've been on both sides, not in favor of the union, for the Teachers Federation Union and the council. I think I don't really have a nice clean answer for you to know about let's just do this and everything will be fine. I don't think it works like that. I guess if I was to suggest anything, probably some kind of pre-negotiation stage, maybe to establish where each side is on and what it is they have, what problems they have. I'm not going to suggest that it's just a quick fix. I don't think that's the case because the municipality is worried about the bottom line. The unions, of course, want to make sure their employees get the best deal, the most reasonable deal they can. It's kind of how the process works. One of the things I've often thought of is that, on a personal note, I'd like to get rid of things like sick days and just get rid of them and go with more like personal days right across the board. I think sick days are archaic. I think they're kind of passe from the previous time.
Thank you, Dean. Maybe we can move that on to the next candidate.
I'm usually pretty quick, Louise. Everybody else is.
So I guess the one thing I want to mention before I try to answer this question is that council isn't part of the negotiation. So there's a lot of folks think that we're more involved in negotiations than what is assumed. And we're not. And we're basically kind of kept up to date briefly and then final approval, really. So I think what probably needs to happen is better communication between the councillors, between our human resource department, between union leaders, union members, but not just at negotiation period. You know, it kind of comes to crunch time. There's years between these times, usually. And we can build relationships between those times, between negotiation, build better streams of communication, and hopefully be more aware of what's going on during negotiations. I think getting leaders are probably really great so that we have someone with no bias at the table. And I'd be happy to see that as well.
I'm going to just repeat the question. Oh, Justin, Ms. Justin. Sorry. I just repeat the questions for maybe those who haven't heard. The young lady, young to me, was asking about how the city could improve labor relationships with their own employees in view of collective agreements that have already run out and a lot of grievances on the table.
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's an important one, and I think it does have to do with having a mutual respect, but also a culture change. It is true that council may not be directly involved in negotiations, but I think we can set the tone of the culture that exists within the city because we are the elected leaders of the city, and that's important. And I think, Councilor Hubert touched on a lot of good points, including having conversations outside of the bargaining period, being open to listening, because we need to be able to hear what's going wrong and to accept that criticism. I think we need to not harp on little things. And I really think it boils down to having an open line of communication, trying to understand the other side, put ourselves in those shoes. And I think that's what we need to do. It's maybe that sounds like too simple an answer, but I think at least that'll start things going. And from there we can grow and keep working on it.
Well, I was involved in the labor movement 25 years in the union, and then I was on the staff, so I've seen both sides of it. And it comes down usually to personalities. And what I try to encourage when I was in human resources is don't look at the face, look at facts. So if you can get a good relationship going, that's the most important, and it comes down to trust. If you can trust the person across the table, you can have a good working relationship. If that trust isn't there, that's when negotiations break down. So what my thought process is always is let's look and see from a labor relations perspective where the problem is. It usually has to do with the people involved and not necessarily the issues.
Vote for me? No, don't do that. I've been on both sides of the fence, union and non-union. And not too long ago, when there was a threat of a strike, okay, when there was a threat of a strike, the people I met outside and spoke to, again, it was trust and respect. But at the end of the day, as I said to them, it's a process. Negotiating is a process. At the end of the day, this union came across with 99.9% not to strike. That's because there was trust there. That's because they negotiated, and that's because they followed the process that is in place.
Thank you for the question. And, you know, I often feel keenly the agony, basically, of our own HR manager who has to go out to the unions at the table and basically make them conform to the limits that we've set. Like, it's not an HR manager or the HR department that is sitting in some sort of opposition to a union. It's council who has said you will give 1.8% this year and nothing more, or 2% and nothing more, and then the union obviously counters. And when a contract is being negotiated, things can get tense. But I've got confidence in the process that both sides have the legal means to ensure that we somehow get to a resolution. And between times, I think between contracts, that's when relationships are often repaired, because they often, they're hurt sometimes in a contract, because I don't think anybody ever really wins. No side wins everything they want. And everybody has to give up a little bit, and you come to a resolution that you can live with for 2 years or 3 years, and then you say, okay, well, we're gonna do better next time, we'll push harder, but obviously it takes two sides to come to an agreement, to form a contract, and it also takes two sides to have a fractious relationship, so ongoing.
Yeah, Elaine pretty well summed up everything I thought. When it comes to labor relations, I just want to point something out that during COVID, many municipalities laid off their workers. I think Brantford laid off 80, and Ottawa laid off 250. The decision to not lay anybody off didn't come from council, it came from administration. They said, we're not going to lay anybody off, we'll find work for those people, and there's no layoff. There were some people, a few, who did volunteer to take a layoff. But I just want to let you know that that wasn't from council, that came right from administration, no layoffs, and we agreed.
Go ahead.
Good evening, my name is Harold Malone, and I recognize all of you who are running for office once again. I know it's not an easy job, and you can't please everybody. I hope you just do your best, because a few years ago, well, matter of fact, I'll go back this far. I've been living on Adolphus Street for almost 50 years. And the same problem every year happens. The lot from the corner of 6th and Sydney up to Adolphus, over to 8th Street and back in like that. It's like garbage every year. And a few years ago, I asked some councilmen, I'm going on holidays, I'm asking your friends to that. I won't point them out. Another one, I was someplace shopping, I asked them, they turned around and they snickered at me and my brother and walked away. They know who they are. Anyways.
Yes, thank you for your question.
Yes, I sent a letter to the mayor. It went through all the different departments, and I had to send one to the mayor at the time, was elect, she's the MPP right now in Parliament, Senator, excuse me, Senator. But anyways, I had to send her a letter
and almost threatened her in another letter, if you don't do something, I'm going to put it in the press. And this happened quite a few years ago.
What is your question for the
My
candidate,
question is,
please?
why don't they clean up the property? They got a bylaw in force.
Are you addressing that to the mayoral candidates?
I am addressing it to some of the councils and the mayor, the future mayor candidates. Okay? And that also, but at the time, there was other people that got involved. And they told me, if you don't believe us, what we're gonna do, put it in the press. We put it in the press.
Okay, so the question for those who may not have heard at that end is, the lot on 6th Street in Sydney is a garbage dump, according to the questioner. And why are the property standards not being addressed, and why is it not getting cleaned up? Maybe we could have those who have some interest in the subject answer.
If I'm not mistaken, that's private property. Are you talking about the old CN property there?
This is candidate, it's private property, but you have an act listed in the city of Cornwall. If you don't take care of your property, we will move in and cut the grass and send the bill to the owner.
Yes, and I'm sure if the grass hit a certain height and you made a phone call, they would come out and they would tack that bill for the cut onto their tax bill. That's the way the system works.
That is not true.
Well,
because we waited a year and a quarter before that grass got cut.
I won't speak to the cleanliness of the place in general, but I do believe that that land has a certain value, and it would be something I would support attempting to perhaps beautify with a park, a splash pad, something of actual value. I'm not quite sure what the dollars and cents would be. I would like to see cost benefit analysis put forward, but it's prime land in a busy part of town that I will agree with the gentleman who asked the question. It's just been an eyesore for far too long, and it's not being realized for its true value.
When I was on council, when people called me, they had a complaint. They didn't have to call me twice. I went to the bylaw, I went to different department, and we got it done. If I'm elected, the same will pursue. If you have a problem, call me. I'll get it done. Thank you.
Property standards are not just words on paper, they're bylaws. Bylaws need to be enforced, and the only way they are enforced if we have bylaw officers that are on the job.
Thank you for the question there, Mr. Harold Lalone, and I agree that that piece of property needs to be cleaned up.
Thank you. We were looking for property for affordable housing, but that is contaminated land. There's no reason why it shouldn't be cleaned up. And I can give you example after example that I've sent to Public Works, or not Public Works, sorry, to enforcement for property standards. And within a week, the property was cleaned up. And I'll give you an example. One is on 4th Street, just in the last month. The grass was this high. What happens is we go and warn them. We give them time to get it done. In a matter of 2 weeks, if it isn't done, we do it, and it goes on their tax bill. So there is a process in place. CN is a big company, but they can pay for that. And so we if there's a problem there, you just address it to us and we'll get it done.
Mr. Grant, excuse me, Mr. Grant, or Mr. Grant, because I do respect you in time. Back in them days, there was a process to follow. I agree with it. But when it takes 8 months for a process to be followed, there's something wrong in the process.
Get the moderator to provide some order here.
Well, it is ordered. I'm just asking the question.
Was it
I'm
someone?
sorry if this is,
Was there someone else who wanted to answer that
Yes.
question?
And if I can answer one.
No, we're not debating, okay?
No,
We
no,
have
I'm
a
not
question.
debating.
So I ask you to sit down, please.
I want to
I would ask, our time is almost over, and I want to give the other two gentlemen a chance to answer.
I agree to that, ma'am, but I had one other.
No, not but. Please sit down, we'll
Okay,
ask the
I'll
other
sit down.
gentlemen. Yes, that's a good idea.
Thank you. I won't put it in writing. Put it in the newspaper.
Well, sir, I just want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we let you down on that. I think we need to do better. I can't explain why it didn't happen, but we obviously need to make sure we're doing what we need to do.
I'm not worried about that topic anymore. I just wanted to discuss on one topic.
Go ahead with the next question.
Next question.
Thank you to the Labor Council for this. My question is directed at Glenn Pratt, the mayor. Mr. Mayor, I'm throwing it at you because you are the top person of council. A while ago, you mentioned that we took a hit with Domtar of $8 million a year. I think we agree. I'm assuming that's tax dollars. Now, then you talked about programs, which isn't. You also mentioned that you made more than $8 million in East End. Why, if you're raising the taxes, and mine included, why would you not reimburse taxpayers for the excess of the dump truck, between the East and dump truck? Why wouldn't you reimburse it instead of spending the money? And if you wanted to even bring it to council as the mayor with that idea, that's a way of lowering our taxes. That's a way of people making their affordability. Do you agree?
Well, Domtar closed, what, 16 years ago? If you just take sheer cost of living, and if you look at our tax rolls, our tax rolls, our assessment is going up, there's no question. But so is everything else. The demands on city resources. I'll give you an example. Last night, we had an introduction of our asset management plan. We are way behind in our asset management plan in certain areas. And we're not talking $10, we're talking millions of dollars. And those are the services that we all come to expect. Our roads, our sewers, our water lines, et cetera. The costs of them they go up astronomically. So this new assessment will help pay for that, but it also will help reduce the tax burden on the taxpayer. Now, I'm going to get into an unpopular area, but arbitration cases are killing us. And we can't challenge arbitration cases. So there's ways that we can control spending, but there's ways that we can't. And that is that we need the help of the senior level of the government in many of these instances.
Okay, thank you. We have one final question, please.
My name is Leo Loza. I have two questions, two different topics. The first topic is, Mayor Grant. I had a conversation with a judge approximately 3 weeks ago. And he told me he's moved into the city to help the judges here because the crime rate is really high in Cornwall. And there's too many cases. And when he referred it back to me, he said, we're probably one of the highest cities per capita in Ontario with crime rate. How can we fix that?
The question is, the questioner thinks that there's a high crime rate in Cornwall, and how can we fix it? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Well, on the police board, we've got some very progressive action plans. The crime is happening, and it's mostly dealing with drugs and human trafficking. Those are two of the major issues that we have. We have task forces in the community that deal with that. Opioids is another area. Crime. It's difficult to be on top of all this. Besides that, we are suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder in our employees. I won't tell you how many were out on post-traumatic stress. We have a reduction in our police forces that have to get corrected. And there's going to be recommendations coming from the police board. Crime prevention, we have very proactive processes in place. And
It doesn't seem to be working.
well, yes, it does.
Oh, no.
Well,
I was there
argue
one
with you.
time. You gotta remember
I see
that.
the statute. It's been very proactive and very, very progressive.
Not at all.
I want to ask,
The second question is about the
I want
permits.
to ask, just a few minutes. Thank you. This is a very important question my friend raised. Actually, the problem is this, there is a homelessness and mental illness. And if we don't care, this is an emergency right now. We need a shelter home for homeless. And I'm warning this and everybody know, if we don't we should take steps to build a shelter home for homeless. Thank you.
I agree with that, because all the people that have records in Cornwall for being arrested over the years can no longer get employment. Most of the companies will not hire you if you have a record. And that's why we have a lot of people in Cornwall on different social, financial help. So I don't know how you're gonna fix it, but it's gotta be fixed sooner than later. I don't know how to do it. It's gotten worse year after year after year. It's time for the police force to be a police force like it was 40 years ago and quit kissing babies.
I agree with you. I see it because I'm boots on the ground for some of my customers, and we have housing, right? So I think we should arm our police force. We should give them all the tools that they need to clean up the mess. And then we should start a pardon program that help people from getting small crimes from 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and they can't get on, work with the federal government and see if we can work something out like that and get these people pardoned so that our workforce would be bigger. Because there's a lot of, I have 40 rooms. I deal with 40 individuals, and I pick and choose who goes in there, and some of them, that's their problem. They can't get a job because they have a little criminal record, a little drug record, or a little assault record from 20 or 15 or 10 years ago, and they can't get a job. They can't get a good paying job. They gotta work for cash all the time. $10 an hour just doesn't cut it. And they go to welfare, and welfare just disses out cash because they can't find a job.
I mean, it's not up to Mr. Grant to solve the problem.
No.
It's to whoever the council that arrives in the room to speak with the police department and change things around. I know they're governed by the province as well, but there was ways of doing stuff internally in Cornwall that can be done. We did it in the past, it wasn't illegal, and we can do it again, but I don't know if they got the nerve to do it.
Okay, thank you very much. We've come to 9 o'clock, so we'll go to 1 minute for each candidate to sum up their ideas. And then you're free to stay and chat with people as you like after the formal. And we'll start with Mr. Grant.
Excuse me, Madam Chair. You give him a 10 and a 2-tier question. I asked to answer the second question.
We're up to our time limit of 9 o'clock. Maybe you don't care, but I do. Thank you.
Ma'am, 1 second, please.
No.
So you're discriminating me.
No, you have a chance to ask your question. Thank you.
No, I did not, because you cut me off. I have a 2-tier question, just like that gentleman, and I should be able to be heard.
Maybe you think you should, but we've reached our time limit, and you're free to ask any question you want after the meeting to the people that you want to address. I think I have to be the friend there, but.
Okay. Yeah, you made a friend. You made one friend.
1 minute.
And we'll do the same thing back and forth, okay, but we'll start at that end. Okay?
Well, thank you very much for attending. You know, this city has progressed more in the last 4 years than it has in the last 40. We have got a full industrial park, we've got tourism attractions coming, and this council has been looked at as the most progressive council that we've had in many, many years. And it's witnessed here by this city. People come into this community, I know we just had a conference here, and they talked about how clean this community is, how well it's preserved, our waterfront is gorgeous. We did that through leadership. Leadership is started with Bernadette Clement and ended with me for 15 months. We have the most efficient meetings that we've ever had, according to people that come and talk to me on a steady basis. And that's because of leadership. I've been in leadership positions my whole life, and I want to continue this, and I want to continue progressing this city. Thank you. Now, on October 24th, please put your X beside my name. Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for being here tonight. I'd like to thank the Labor Council for hosting us tonight and bringing us together. As Pope Corey mentioned, like, municipal politics is important. It affects your everyday life, and it's important to get involved in the process. So we have two visions for Cornwall. If everything's fine, the status quo, we can stay the course. But I think we need change, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm running. I have been part of the previous council for 8 years. I've tried to do my best. I'm running on that record. Going forward, we are at the precipice of something great. The city is changing. We're really on that edge of something great, but we need to move in a new direction. Please, on October 24th, vote for Justin Towndale. Thank you for your consideration. Merci pour votre considération.
My name is James LaRue. I hope I can get your vote on October 24th. I'd like to bring some change. I have some experience. I'm running for the CEO job at the municipality of Cornwall. I sit on five numbered in companies. So we're doing successful, and I think we should have change. And I'd like to hear your concerns. And I believe that all the community, if we get feedback from the community, instead of passing things and having feedback from the communities, there's a lot of intelligent people out there will help bring the city to a better place. Thank you.
One of my favorite phrases is one written by Albert Schweitzer that once said that among all of us, those who will be truly happy will be those who will have sought and found how to serve. I hope, and I have found that happiness in serving in many ways in organizations that I've been involved in past councils. I hope to serve again, but again, go out there and vote and encourage your friends and neighbors to vote. Merci.
Once again, thank you all for being here. We all appreciate it. And I hate to brag, but I did receive the award from Governor General Romeo Blanc for outstanding services to the city of Cornwall. $5,000 I raised for Cops for Cancer. $7,000 for the Children's Treatment Center. I've been dedicated Big Brothers with Mr. Towndale's father in 1973, founding member. I had two little brothers, and I was member of the board of directors, the Big Brothers, and Mom started Big Sisters in 1980. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud of my city, and I respectfully would like your vote on October 24th. Thank you.
A vote for me, Stephen Robinson, to become your next city councillor means to vote to support improvements to youth mental health programs, removing red tape for new home development, building more affordable houses, attracting tourism and new business to Cornwall, improving public services such as childcare and senior care, helping local animal advocates, and creating responsible environmental policy. There has been a decades-long problem plaguing Cornwall that I believe can be fixed. I identify the problem as the good enough effect. Previous administrations have done nothing of significance to promote our beautiful city to the world. And I'm already out of time. Vote for me on October 24th. Thank you.
Many years ago, the company I worked with offered me I was working in Southern Ontario at the time, 3 places to go to, and one was in Duluth, Minnesota, the reason I was offered that job because I had a green card. And the other one was Thunder Bay, and the other one was Cornwall, my hometown. And I thought about it for a long time, and I decided to go back to my hometown, and I've never, ever regretted it. This is a great community. It's getting better. I think there's some great things going to happen. I really like to be part of it. I want to thank everybody for putting in me. It isn't easy getting up there and doing all these debates and everything. And some people go door to door. It's tough work, and you don't really get a lot of thanks for it. But anyway, get out and vote, as Claude Poirier says. We really need a better turnout. Have a good night.
There have been a lot of words articulated here tonight, and I want to say I think the most important ones are the ones that came from that side of the floor. Because what you have expressed is what you want for the city. So I can tell you, my sleeves are rolled up. If it's good for the community, I'm there to work for it. Please vote for me on October 24th.
Encore une fois, merci beaucoup pour l'invitation. Je vais faire ça de façon rapide, résumer ma plateforme qui est disponible à l'arrière. My platform is available at the back, printed at the phone number. You can reach me, social media, on Facebook, everything, all the information is there. But at the end of the day, we have to look at living within our means so that we can reduce the cost to citizen and make it more affordable. And we have to, again, the environment is a big one, like my public safety, and 2 task force. The first one to look at the expenses, second one, rules of permit. Thanks, good night, merci, bonsoir.
Thank you, Carnival and District Labor Council. So I have a website, abidhussaincarnival.com. Everyone can visit that, and my Facebook, Abid Hussain. So I support the programs are affordable housing, walk-in clinics, homelessness crisis and mental health, waterfront, senior citizen sports services. So those are the things I support, and vote for me October 24, and there is a voting also tomorrow from 10 to 6 p.m. Please vote Abid Hussain. Thank you so much.
I would like to thank the organizers. Thank you very much. Thank you to
If anybody wants to talk to me and wants to know projects that finished, ask me about it, and I'll tell you what I've done in more than 14 years, in over 20 years. 14 years on the council, 20 years getting things done in Cornwall. So give me a call. Come and see me. I'll be glad to tell you what I get done. Thank you. I would like to thank the Liberal Council for this gathering. Our municipal government matters. Leadership matters. On making the right choice for your city council, it is time to open the council to new voices who seek to be heard. New voices that love our community and who seek to contribute with fresh ideas. Give me the chance to be such a voice. With the right choice, with this optimism, and with faith in ourselves, there are no limits
to our future. Thank you very much.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Labor Council, for putting on this event. Again, my name is Jason Riley. Look, at the end of the day, Cornwall City Council needs people to solve problems, big, complex problems. I've built my career on being a problem solver. I'd like to invite you to visit my website, votejasonriley.ca. You can learn more about me on my platform there. I hope that you, on October 24th, when you go to vote, you consider me. Thank you. I want to say thank you to you for participating. Thank you to the Labor Council for organizing this event. Thank you to all the other councillors and candidates that have put their names forward. Since starting my involvement, knocking on doors, I've had countless conversations with lots of people. And it doesn't matter, like, you know, what the issue is. They have concerns and they want these concerns addressed by a team approach at City Council. That's what I want to bring to the council table, is a team approach. I believe I can help to deliver. As your councillor, I stand for transparent decision-making, accessibility, accountability at your City Hall. Now, everybody is saying October 24th, vote for it. Why wait? Advance polls tomorrow. Last go vote for that. Thank you.
I guess once again, Brian Martell, I'm humbly before you guys saying that yes, please vote for me on October 24th, the advance polls, whenever. Please do humbly for you. I don't have, you know, the volunteering background some of these people do. They got, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I mean, one day maybe I'll get there. The one positive, if you don't vote some of these people, and they'll have lots of time to do lots of good stuff in the community. I mean, I'm lazy. I only help out with Big Brothers. I focus on one little kid. But I don't, just get out and vote, guys. I don't care who you vote for.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today. I wish we all had more time to answer your questions. Obviously, there are many. I think we all want to see this community thriving, and we all have different ideas for how we can do that. I am hopeful for the opportunity to work collaboratively on council with my colleagues, hopefully, to bring progressive, innovative, and compassionate change. If you would like a counselor who is approachable and honest, who will listen to your problems, and who will speak very candidly to where I stand on issues, please vote for me, Sarah Good, October 24th, or tomorrow. Have yourself a great night. Thank you.
So politicians should never make promises, right? But I know that I can make one promise to all of you tonight. I promise to continue to lead, to advocate, and to vote with my heart, and to make the difficult decisions I'm elected to make based on what is best for our city. I have grown into a different candidate and councillor over the last 8 years, but this is one thing that has not and will not change. I'm ready to keep pushing our city to be more progressive and inclusive. Along with the passion I have always had for this community, I now have the experience and knowledge to go with it. J'espère que tu pourrais me soutenir afin que je puisse continuer à être une voix pour notre population vulnérable et se battre pour la justice sociale, la réduction de pauvreté et à répondre à la crise du logement et de l'itinérance. You can count on me to be a loud voice for climate action, waterfront, art, culture, and recreation programs to increase our overall quality of life for each and every one of us. Please, on October 24th or tomorrow, cast your vote for Kathy Nevada. Thank you, Stephanie. Now we're
First of all, thank you to the Labor Council for putting on the event. Just a little bit of information. Approximately a year and a half ago, Maclean's Magazine did a survey which rated Cornwall as the 8th best city in all of Canada to live. You can go check that for yourself if you wish. We've built in Pittman second after 25 years. We've built in McConnell in 9th with affordable housing. There's a number of, we've finally put some infrastructure in the park so we can have lighting for festivals. Those are just 3 things that we've done. I really would like your support when you vote to continue what we've accomplished thus far. Whenever you decide to vote, please vote for Dean.
And it got renovated from points to seven. Now they have to work from second to fourth. So I think if I could proceed without being on concept, I just wonder how much more can I do if I work at the table. I think it could push a lot more and be successful there too. So please, to the fourth and fourth.
Thank you to the Cornwall District Labor Council for this chance. It was nice as council for 10 days to get a more opportunity than just 2 minutes to talk, and that was it. So answering your questions was good. I can say that one councillor, one mayor can't do anything on their own. It takes a collaborative effort. I think I've proven in the last 4 years I've been able to work with different groups. I've been able to work with my colleagues. I've been able to work with administration to get things done. I'm part of some committees, the Joint Liaison Committee between Cornwall and the counties, where we talk about our shared services and how we're going to improve those for the residents of all of our communities. I'm also part of the Portlands ownership group with Dr. Sosny. We're building a partnership there. We're doing it with respect. We're working towards truth and reconciliation. And we've got an opportunity down there to show the rest of this country how you work with your Indigenous neighbors. I think there's going to be a spotlight shone in this community very soon to show the work that we're able to do between our 2 communities. So I believe I've been able to positively contribute to those by working collaboratively with everyone I had the opportunity to sit on the table with, and I hope to do the same in the next 4 years. I ask for your support tomorrow or next Monday.
This is the problem with going last. I think everything that I wanted to say has been said 4 times already. I did a little bit of talking tonight, but did a lot of listening tonight. And one thing that's really, really clear, there's a lot of good stuff that's happened. There's a lot of issues that are still around, that linger and continue to be here. We have to choose how we want to proceed with this. Do we want to keep trying the same status quo over and over and over, hoping this time it might be different? Or do we want to try something different? Elect young, bold, fresh voices that have the education, the sensibility to make sure what we're doing is smart, realistic, and attainable, but are shaped by different societal values, shaped by different life experiences that can offer diverse leadership. Diverse leadership is better leadership. Please vote for Bruce Baker. Whenever voting, you can do it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to all of the candidates and the people in the audience and to our media who come tonight. It's very kind to be here. And of course, we all know about the vote. That, we appreciate the conversion here. If you're here, your interest is involved. I just would ask you perhaps we could have a few seconds of silence and just spend time off to date those who are battling illness at this point. And once again, I'd like to tell you that if you have grown children who can vote, it is your duty to bring them to the polls. I drag my children to the polls all the time. So take care and have a good evening. Yeah.
for.